Madison, how's it look? Funny, once we get out. Check here's the bill, man. Madison,
Still presenting, right?
yeah, dude, rock and roll.
Okay,
There were.
great. Hi, everybody. My name is Ibrahim Buyukcelebi. I am the Lehigh Valley Civic Engagement Coordinator for Penn Future. Penn Future is a statewide environmental advocacy organization. We basically work year-round in the state of Pennsylvania to protect our clean air, clean water, and then our environment in general. We do like policy advocacy. We fight against we have a legal team that takes on cases and, like a myriad of teams. We have a clean energy, clean air team and all that. And today I'm going to be giving a presentation on how land use decisions affect our water and define our water communities in the future. So it's basically about like how land use affects the Lehigh River watershed. Okay. So here's like a rough map of the Lehigh Valley and the Lehigh River watershed. I did realize after I pulled this map that it doesn't capture, like, for example, like the Bushkill Creek area. But it's like a rough map, so I think it does the job. Basically, as you all know, the Lehigh River basically defines the Lehigh Valley. That's what it's named after. And Lehigh River itself goes all the way up to like the Carbon County and parts of like Monroe and Lackawanna. And in this presentation, first I'm going to highlight some of the threats to our waterways, including like past threats that are still a nuisance to our clean water, and recent and future threats. And lastly, I'm going to highlight some things we could do and some actions we could take to make our waterways cleaner and advocate for a cleaner environment in general. So some past and persisting threats to our waterways are so in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of abandoned coal mines and heavy industry sites. We have a good number of dams that don't really serve much of a purpose. A good example of this is like the one at the park. Like it doesn't really do much, but like this one in particular, it's like nice cosmetic, looks great, but yeah. And then we have like road salt and firefighting foam. And lastly, we have our stormwater runoff issues. So one of the oldest issues that we have that affects the Lehigh River watershed is the abandoned coal mines and heavy industry sites. So for the first 200 years or so, there was a lot of restrictions around how to use land and how to, be environmentally conscious with industry. So the area was mined without formal regulation. When all the available coal was extracted from mine sites, like operators would just leave and leave the coal mines open, leave the quarries and whatnot, just there to be hit with rain, snow, whatnot. And in Pennsylvania, over 15 tons of coal were removed, and this resulted in 250,000 acres of mine land left abandoned. And like these abandoned mines, exist in this watershed. They can leak acids, they can leak heavy metals and other pollutants, and these eventually make their way to the Lehigh River. This can be so big that like 4,000 miles of pH streams are effectively dead, and they can't support a fish or insect population. Another persisting threat is the dams in the region. This is a picture from a recent dam demolition that they did. I believe it was last year. While some dams they can be beneficial, hundreds of thousands of dams, they don't serve a purpose and they contribute to poor water quality. So basically what happens is, the water's running down, right? Because these dams block the free flow of water, a lot of the sediment, the heavy metals and the pollutions, they sink to the bottom where the dams are and they can't flow on in the river. and kind of get filtered by like natural process, and so it just gets stuck there. And like a lot of fish and plant life, they rely on the soil on the bottom of the river to maintain like a healthy ecosystem. So this prevents that. And some things like, according to the Wildlands Conservancy, like when dams are removed, streams saw like rapid improvement, especially in like fish populations. They found that fish were able to freely swim up and down the river, and they observed seasonal flow changes. They also found that cogs of silt that impair spawning and feeding decimated. Yeah. So, and lastly, one other threat that serves a purpose for a lot of our society is like road salt and firefighting foam. So road salt, if any of you like raise like fish in an aquarium, you know how important like salinity is in the water, right? Have you ever tried to have like warm water fish in an aquarium and you have to like match the pH perfectly, or else the fish die. Nah.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a real pain, like when you're trying to raise fish, and like imagine what that could do to like a stream where we throw roll salt on the roads for the winter, and then it just gets swept up, or like the rain or the snow carries it into the rivers. So this increases the salinity, and it can be toxic to the entire food web, whether it be plants, whether it be fish, and yeah, and the firefighting foam. Um, a lot of it, the modern ones contain forever chemicals, PFAs. You probably heard this more recently in media and the news, and how they found like PFAs in the human body and every organ and this and that. But yeah, so with the firefighting foam, these PFAs also go into our water supply and into our rivers, um, and that is also a major problem. And lastly, stormwater runoff. Um, this is a problem because stormwater runoff is many areas in the Lehigh Valley, it is not filtered. So whatever goes in the drain ends up in the rivers. And you know, it's untreated by the municipal separate storm sewage systems. And many municipalities like the Lehigh Township are considered, separate storm sewage systems, and anything that goes down there goes into the river. So if like your neighbor has like a car that leaks oil, right, and it rains, and it goes in the storm drain, where's it going to end up? In the rivers? you know. And all this is obviously a negative impact. And it is because like some public works, and we do have an older sewage system somewhat. Um, yeah. Those were like the older threats. Now we have like the more recent threats and future threats to our waterways. As you probably all know, the Lehigh Valley has become like a logistical hub for the East Coast, and especially like this area, because we are strategically placed relatively close to to New York City, Philadelphia, somewhat DC, and we have all these warehouses popping up in the area. And this is causing problems for our waterways. And the main problem is a lot of these warehouses, they're not so much the building itself, but well, the building itself because it covers land, like for land use purposes, but more so the pavement around it. Uh, it has become a serious issue because they create impervious surfaces, and especially warehouses that are built next to creeks, next to rivers. A good example of this is the mega warehouse that is planned to go up by Bushkill Creek in Easton. It's a 1 million square foot warehouse. It's on an old brown site, but it's right next to the Bushkill Creek. And as you can imagine, like when you have trucks, when you have, cargo going in and out, there's bound to be like, truck pollution, car pollution, oils, gas, something, even like the cleanest facility is going to have something. And these surfaces, when water hits, when snow hits, all of that just gets washed up to the local creeks and the local rivers. Um, and it prevents like rainwater from soaking into the ground. It can also increase like flooding, but for our purposes today, we're just focusing on the pollution. uh, yeah, and the Lehigh Valley being a logistical hub also poses the threat of increased truck traffic. And I know like many of us notice it in our air and in our roadways. But the thing with trucks is, as opposed to normal cars, trucks produce way more air particulate matter. Particulate matter is like basically heavier pollution, air pollution, and it's thicker. And the thing with that is like it goes up, yes, it goes up through the exhaust of the trucks, but it eventually has to come down, right? And this comes down through like two ways. It's called dry deposition, where where particles eventually, they go up and eventually they settle and they come back down. And they can come back down on the rivers, they can come back down on the roads, the grass, whatever. But depending on where it comes down, it can get washed into the local creeks, the local rivers. There has been like research done that like if like for example like a school or a playground is next to like a distribution center, the children there usually have like higher rates of like health problems. And it's largely because of this particulate matter. It's not necessarily from like car pollution. It's because trucks produce particulate matter as opposed to like normal like exhaust that like normal cars produce. Another way that the particulate matter settles is wet deposition. And as you can imagine, this is like when there's rain or there's snow, and it just like brings it all down. And when it brings it all down, it takes it to the creeks, it takes it to the rivers, the storm drains, and eventually, it makes it into our waterways. And this particulate matter is bad because it can change the water's chemistry. It can make it more acidic. It can screw up the nutritional value of the water for the fish and the plants and the insects. And these changes can lead to like algae blooms, which the algae like sucks up the oxygen in the river. So like depletes oxygen and it creates dead zones where fish and other aquatic life can't live. Another thing that's coming up that's been in the news more recently is the rise of data centers and their water usage. Um, Data centers, they don't like one, they have the impervious surfaces like the distribution centers have, right? But the second thing is, which is I believe to be more important, is the servers in the data centers, they require water for cooling. And like it depends where the data center gets the water. Like for example, I believe it's somewhere in the north, it's somewhere in the Midwest. It might be Michigan. I'm not 100% sure. But like from there, they did like legislation where the data centers were required to pump the water directly from the Great Lakes, treat it, and dump it back to the Great Lakes. So it was like kind of like even exchange. Over here, I know a lot of us get our water from like underground wells. So particularly if a data center is getting their water from underground, and they're pumping huge amounts of water, like incredible amounts of water. Like there's been like news articles about, like families next to data centers, like their water, like basically they have zero water pressure anymore. It's like trickling, you know, just because like all these data centers are drying up all their water. So if they pump it from underground, like they can't put it back underground right now. There's no process, or it would be too costly, and the corporations want to like profit. So they would most likely dump it above ground, and if they dump it above ground, you take all this groundwater and dump it above ground. And there was this article recently that we actually shifted the Earth's axis because of all the groundwater we're using and dumping above ground. And we don't know like the long-term implications of this. Um, yeah, and like they could theoretically take the water, cool it because the water goes through all these machines that really warm the water and heat it up. They cool the machines, but then the water gets hot. they could cool the water and like safely deposit it back. But of course, like a lot of this goes back to, profits and, is that profitable? Do they want to treat it? Do they want to cool it? Do they want to send it back? Um, yeah, unfortunately, there's that situation. And if they don't cool it and they just dump it back, this could lead to like increased water temperature in the waterways, which also affects like plant and fish life. And going back to the aquarium thing, you need a certain temperature, fish, you don't want to boil the fish. So there are several ways that we can, fix all these problems or, have our waterways be cleaner. Um, some of them, like for the coal mines and industrial sites, it's like cleaning, filling, closing them off so that they don't get rainwater and snow to drive all the pollution, the heavy metals and the acid into the waterways. We can remove superfluous dams from the area to increase the free flow of water so that like nature automatically like filters the water through like the running of the streams and the creeks. And like I mentioned before, like when a dam is removed, largely like according to the Wildlands Conservancy, there was a great increase in the quality of the water and the local fish could swim freely, and it really helped the population. One good news is Pennsylvania is actually moving to ban PFAS in firefighting foam. So there is currently House Bill 1261 that has passed the state house in July 2025, and it's awaiting a state Senate vote. And this bill would ban the sale, manufacturing, and distribution of PFAS containing foam by July 2026. And yeah, and ban its use by 2027. So there was like a budget shutdown recently. It recently ended, so maybe they'll get back on this, hopefully. um, in terms of road salt, um, things we could do is like we could limit the use of road salt, decrease it, uh, maybe like recycle it. I know like all of this is, obviously cost based, like if you want to close down a coal mine, you want to close it off, you want to prevent pollution, or you want to like recycle road salt, pick it up, put it back, use it again or something. Obviously this requires labor, there's like costs, and a lot of times, we operate based on the cost of things. Um, Another thing that could be done is we could filter our stormwater runoff in our drains so that this could be like through physical filters for the drains, like bioretention systems with rain gardens and permeable surfaces. Like they would capture pollution like sediment, oils, chemicals, and trash them before the water reaches the waterways. Some other things. So I was talking about warehouses and data centers having impervious surfaces. Those surfaces can actually be made to be permeable. So that means like when the water hits it, it does filter through the ground and go to that ground right there. Of course, the problem with this is cost again. It's much easier to just like pour concrete or asphalt as opposed to, having a permeable surface that is designed to filter. It will use like layers of stones and soil and create like a natural filtration system that exists in our normal, like the ground around us, you know. Um, and it would greatly improve our water quality. Uh, data center usage, data center water usage can be regulated. Like ordinances could be put in place to make data centers, for example, like this off the top of my head, like data centers could be required to use water directly from the river, treat it and put it back in the river, like the place, the data center up in the Midwest does. A lot of this requires like local legislation and local ordinances. Um, there was also the Riparian Buffer Protection Act, which died in committee a while back, and this would have established mandatory science-based vegetative buffer zones along all of Pennsylvania's waterways to filter pollution, prevent erosion, and reduce flooding. We could bring back this act. And in general, like land use ordinances would protect against like land use like warehouses and data centers. There are like some resources here, like data designations. Sorry, I haven't got this much. One resource that we have with Penn Future is my colleague Bridget, who's a land use lawyer, actually prepared a land use booklet. I put some copies on the desk over there, and there are QR codes and URLs for those who can't get a physical copy. There's only a couple available, sorry. But this basically, it like details how we as the general public can participate in local land use decisions. So we can, prevent harmful land use and development before it occurs. After it's already built, after it's already running, there isn't much we could do in terms of stopping it from running or, preventing it. We do have an event on December 4th. It's a webinar on AI and data center usage. There's also a flyer there on that. And yeah, thank you. Scott.
Any questions?
Yep.
Thank you, Ibrahim. You mentioned on the section where you're talking about the distribution centers that the
Yeah.
impervious surfaces create potential flooding impacts. And
Yeah.
of course, there's that 1 million square foot mega warehouse. How do you assess the potential impact for additional flooding in the Lehigh Valley from these new projects being built? Is there anything else we can do to mitigate that beyond just creating more permeable surfaces?
I don't really have an assessment on hand, unfortunately. But I will say that, like, in order to prevent it, like the main thing we could do is, participate in land use decisions and get in front of new construction. Like I was saying, once it's built, there isn't really much we could do in terms of preventing further flooding from happening. But if, the one in Easton, for example, I think it's being held up because they're trying to relocate a stream or something. And Eastern, oh, do you know
There
about
is
it?
a stock mega warehouse.
Yeah.
There is an organization you could donate to. If all push comes to shove, there's gonna be a lot of lawyering to do. So there's gonna be a lot of money
Mhm.
required, because the person that wants to build a warehouse is a lot.
Where can I
Yeah.
learn about that?
I can give you a link.
Who's trying to build the warehouse?
It's called,
Who's trying to build the warehouse?
is it Scan?
Corporation out of Texas.
It's that company bought the land and it's kind of got a, they're leasing it to another. They signed it
Mhm.
for 5 years to put something. So they proposed a 1 million square warehouse, which not only is this site had a treatment plant on it that was barely visible, but it was small plant on the bottom. Now they wanted to get 1 million square feet on this bowl. They're going to pull a mountain down, push it about, and put the warehouse 100 feet elevated above.
And this is gonna be 60 feet above that, so you're talking 160-foot construction, sea mile.
Well,
Right there in the silk mill, which is a major carbon dwelling, it'll come like that up.
it's an hideous proposition.
They have to reroute the streets this into the bush mill too.
Is this the old Pfizer plant?
It's the old fire.
Yes, it is.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. It's
How would they ever do that? There's not enough land in there.
This is worse.
There's not enough land. It's just.
Exactly.
You're right.
And most of it's not in the city of Easton. The city is
Mhm.
Easton. Wilson Borough already.
Yeah.
We haven't even known what it, they just were like, we need some money. Because what happened to them was Eastern Hospital got taken over by St. Luke's. They became a nonprofit, so they lost houses there. They're like, they need, and Pfizer for the payment. So they lost that income. So they're just looking for They just need tax dollars, so that's all they're saying.
Even though we have
They
a
used to
small
say that there's
percentage
not
of
that much
property,
tax revenue.
even though we have a small percentage of the property, we control the major two waterways, which is an unnamed street and the Bushkill that are in the eastern property. And our water ordinances, are not being complied with appropriately, they're not
Well-
using correct data.
Fortunately, what happened.
Also, we have Lafayette University to get involved, several professors who come down and testify.
Well, one professor in particular, David Brinkus. Maybe his wife came
He's been
to
involved in the industry for
20 years with students. He's a geology. professor.
The smallness in reality. Has he been studying the one that's getting moved? or-
No, this is the Bushkill,
Oh,
the
it's the
tributary goes into
Okay.
there. But when you see how they've elevated this warehouse and paved over everything, it has three giant detention ponds that are good, because the water can no longer come. It's also crazy because there's just a cliff. I'll show you the,
200-foot
if
cliffs on
anybody's
either end of it,
interested, I'm
and
gonna
it's
try to
straight down
find
into
the
the water.
Yeah.
And there's no method for citizen involvement in the township or anything, that's what you're saying, like, they didn't even,
I mean, there's a fight for it at Easton
The
City
name
Hall.
of the
yeah.
group, the name of the website is nomegawarehouse.org.
We can go to that. See.
And when you go to the website, it will show you the 3D renderings of the before and after. I'll show it to somebody nearby. You can see this is the Silicon Valley, you're looking at a wooded hillside. You know where that. So it's like,
So this is.
Sure.
Fighting with cities.
it's
Last year, monthly meeting.
this.
They're basically trying to tear down the public.
Yeah.
There's a hill,
It's fine.
data. Sound. Water. Come in and testify.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one.
Before
That's the after.
Oh my God, wow.
the Bushkill is like right here.
This house.
Bushkill.
Can you scroll down a bit? Yeah.
Different pictures. Yeah.
That's
the
great.
silk mill, and then, so they were the silk mill. they'll-
No, those are the trees that are there.
Yeah.
And they said, the banks on, around the detention ponds are so steep, nothing's wow. They show them
Right.
green, but there's like no way.
Right.
Plus you see that tan cliff?
See the tan on either end of it?
That's just a sheer.
That's 100-foot
Right here.
rise on either end of
They
that
just-
building, that tan.
They don't
Very
just-
small.
It's the way.
And the one on the right goes directly into the bush cover. All of their
Mhm.
collecting water. And that doesn't have anything, this is collecting normal rain. If you have a hurricane or a large rain event, those are gonna overflow everything directly to the bush cover. High quality.
Jim, is that the 13th Street?
That's 13th Street H.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to change trucks going in different directions, if they may have to get off at 25th Street. Already at 5 o'clock, that traffic is
Oh, yeah.
back up
Yeah.
to the highway because we're the township. Not to mention idling vehicles. and
This is
sound.
gonna be very hard to stop, because we didn't have the zoning. to stop. And that's what he was saying, you have to get to
Yeah.
the language for the rules and say, you need to do, adopt zoning ordinances that not allow us to have.
Yeah. So we have.
It's too late for us. The only way that David Brandis, he said, you totally miscalculated the runoff on this site.
Mhm.
And you used all the wrong formulas, and none of this is right, so he came in as our expert. This is like going to a courthouse, because they have a lawyer there, he brings in his expert witnesses and question us, and we get to question them, and we bring in our expert witnesses, and he gets to question them, and it's just a circus, and our planning board meetings have gone from 6 until midnight.
Yeah.
3 times on this thing, and it's been going since last September.
Yeah.
Now, they're like these 6-hour meetings, they finally shut it off. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
The good thing is though, there is like a coalition right now. Like I did attend one, there was like a fair amount of opposition and there's people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people are like, yeah.
They've already-
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if the city says no, they're gonna sue us.
Mhm.
And then the mayor's gonna go, we can't afford it, so he's gonna say, okay. And then the Stop the Wood Warehouse organization is gonna sue the city. So that's what's gonna happen. It's just gonna be this. But yeah, they're gonna get a ton of money.
But it wasn't for our experts digging into the data, for instance, the sound expert, they were saying, okay, there's gonna be a certain decibel, and the average range of the decibel, I forget what they said, it was 60 or 70.
But it's allowed,
Right,
50, I think.
so our sound expert came and said, wait a minute, you can't just take ambient sound and intermittent sound and lump it all together. Intermittent sound is like a jake brake, a horn, door slamming. That's an intermittent sound, and ambient sound is sort of like a truck running all the time. You get that like that next to highway, it's like a waterfall, it's almost like white noise. Walking out. The data that they presented was saying, or the sound experts said, the study studied intermittent sound is so disruptive to people's sleep, their psyche, they're hearing it all day long, all night long. This is a 24-hour operation.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, plus,
it can really cause.
the intermittent song sound is only allowed us to lower. So it has to be reduced. Anyway, but it's gonna be so elevated, it's gonna just be broadcast.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're way up high.
Is that,
And the trucks are gonna climb the hill and then they're gonna brake coming down. the hill.
is that green on the left-hand side, is that Hackett's Park?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Tax card is on the left.
On the left, that,
The
I'm trying to think how
there's
it's-
the Arts Kilmer Trail, like right here.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
There's a Hackett Park below. and a
Yeah,
Hackett
over
Park-
here.
well, I'm thinking about the Hackett Park up on top of the hill.
Yeah.
At the very top where it says before.
I think it's over here. Yeah.
Yes, where they had the pavilion and stuff.
Drag that across.
Uh-huh.
They're removing.
It'll be right up against it, yeah. So do they have to do a disease projection for the mosquitoes?
I'm sorry?
They have to do a disease projection for the mosquitoes that are gonna be naturally constituted, and those are huge ponds.
Yeah.
They're stagnant ponds, you're gonna have massive mosquitoes, you're gonna have the dissemination of whatever mosquito-borne diseases you have. Did they do
Yeah.
that study?
I'm not 100% sure about this one. But like, yeah.
Other thing is a lot of the detention retention ponds are dry except when it rains. And I don't know whether these are quote wet bottom that have water in them all the time or whether they're dry.
Or they're really dry.
If they say they're gonna be dry, will they really be dry?
Does the company even have to tell us?
I'm not sure what what the environmental requirements
Impact you
are.
have to.
Yeah.
You could totally get people to rally behind.
Yeah. Like a lot of that.
What have you.
Yeah. Like a lot of people when they like see like a project like this, they think like, oh, it's on the state level, it's on the federal level, or like even like the county level. No, it's like local law. It's like Easton, Wilson law, like
Yes.
local municipality and ordinances.
The township, that level is
Yeah.
the place that does control the zoning, excuse me, and the development regulations. So a lot of times you get into an area where the municipality is small and doesn't have the funding to do the planning work that they should. And it's a problem.
And they committed giant steamroller us by
Mhm.
coming in with all of this, all these approvals from the DPA, from
The
from Harris,
DEP.
DEP,
And then
Harrisburg,
PennDOT.
PennDOT. You have to pass this because we have this, and they're like, no, we don't, we have our own ordinance.
Yeah.
You're not meeting our quality.
Mhm.
I mean, and they bit off really good too, because luckily we have a university there with some very talented people who have been studying this for a long
Yeah.
time. One of the data points that they found is they were taking data from USGA monitoring sites who were way upstream and using that data to predict what was gonna happen here. And the president said, no, you can't do that. To really know what that is gonna do, you have to put a monitoring station in that side stream and monitor it for a year and a half. To have the
So we're
correct
trying to
data.
delay
So
the.
we're,
As in the.
so they don't wanna do that, of course.
Yeah.
They wanna get. right away.
Because they only have 5 years to get something started, so, and I think they burn up a year and a half. So
I have to wonder, what happens if this gets stalled for the 5-year period? Is somebody else gonna come in and try to do the same thing, or is there?
hopefully then we could quickly put some zoning in before somebody, or what we could do is, we can't fix the zoning on this, but we should start fixing the zoning for the next thing that's gonna come.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
Get something started,
Yes,
so that even if it was a 500,000 square foot warehouse, but 1 million, it should never be that big. It's insane. And the first developer that looked at it said, I would never put anything that big. I might put a small warehouse and maybe a strip mall and some office buildings and mixed use kind of thing. And that would have been okay, you know, bring it up. But then they're like, no, one big box, we gotta have
200 feet in the air.
it's, I can't imagine. It's awesome to do that. Yeah. It's gonna, they have to blast rock. It's gonna do a lot of dynamite to bring the mountain top down.
I'm sorry.
Yesterday, they really,
It's because one of the reasons they wanna build it there is all the prime locations along that thoroughfare, Route 22 evolved and take it up where they're residential or we have to work.
Yeah.
This is like the last spot in the Lehigh Valley, right before you have to.
They're doing the same thing in Jersey.
Yeah. That's already there was a question.
Yesterday, New York Times had a long article about how the current administration, federal administration, is rescinding a lot of the Wetlands Protection Act of
Oh, yeah.
1972. Can you speak to that at all? Or how are you guys feeling?
I can't speak to that unfortunately because it just like recently happened.
Yeah.
So our policy team is looking at it, and then we are gonna like come up with a strategy probably to deal with it. But right now, I don't want to say anything that will give you incorrect information.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
things I live down south. People don't understand what wetlands do.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they down there, first of all, we had all this PFAS in the water.
Yeah.
Down there, first I didn't know there was PFAS, so I got sick from the water. I didn't know why I was so sick.
Really?
It
Wow.
was because I never had PFAS in my
Yeah.
water. So then they finally, when we found it out, I was always getting bottled water. And then we had to do these reverse osmosis systems. Then we'll go to the wetlands. So these developers, because down there, you just buy somebody off. Like, I'll even back up. So how they found out, it was the Cape Fear River Association that was the one that pushed to find the PFAS in the water and got all this pushback. Because nobody else would do anything. And here when they found it, it was all in a file. Like, it was all documented what they're putting in the river. It wasn't like a hidden secret. So they just ignored all this. So the wetlands down there, because of how they're building.
Yeah.
My community that I used to live in,
Mhm.
the last hurricane we finally got, not the flooded, the house was flooded. The streets were never flooded because there were still waterways and wetlands.
Yeah.
But they keep developing on the wetlands. So that's why down there, you see how everything gets flooded, because the water has nowhere to go. And so it literally, Hurricane Florence, I was down there to watch the whole community
Mhm.
like lose itself and have
Yeah.
to do, because it was broke down closer to the wetlands, but then the wetlands aren't there. So the water rose up to their second floor of the house. And they lost everything. And that's when, unless you see it, and I never understood that, but living down there, gives you a whole appreciation of what wetlands mean and how
Yeah.
important they are to keep them as they are. There's a reason they're there, and so just, those are things to be aware of too, because it was really horrific to see some of the damage done. Like living in Wilmington area, that hurricane, if you left, you weren't coming back. Because for 10 days, the roads all
Yeah.
washed away. Because what? Which goes back to developing, to the, all that stuff. Sorry, just when you're
No,
saying
you're
about wetlands, it's terrible considering not Cape Fear.
So did they find, did you guys like define where, if you're gonna dump all this water into the watershed,
Mhm.
where it's gonna be flooded out? Like what houses are in the low-lying areas and gonna get, the repercussions of this build out?
You mean the mega warehouse?
Yeah, like for example, I mean, is that part of their calculation is showing you, if this is gonna be a piece of volume, this, like, Portland, Pennsylvania gets wiped out, I think the people won't even come to me. And it's all because of, runoff from higher up in the Delaware, right?
Yeah.
So is that part of what you guys are doing so that you can sort of warn the communities that are in these low-lying areas are gonna get?
I mean, unfortunately, we can't do anything about the mega warehouse because as she was saying, like, the law's already in place and, like they're being stalled by a couple of things, but like if they're going according to the law, like, the language in the book, and, you can't really do anything at that point. It's too late. So,
Especially if you see the people downstream who don't know they're gonna get flooded out.
yeah, like we're not doing it. We can't do anything about that. Like the city themselves has to do something about that.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
What, since Pennsylvania state law requires that every municipality have something in their zoning to
Yeah.
cover anything, so our little township has to have something that provides for a zoo and a penitentiary and
Mhm.
obviously. So what is Penn Future doing to try and change the state zoning law that would alleviate this problem for local municipalities?
So it's not really a state thing. It's like a local zoning ordinances.
Mhm.
And that's why we have like model zoning ordinances that like local municipalities can incorporate into their local ordinances. So we have, for example, like a lot of new data centers that are going up. There's nothing in a lot of ordinances that say like they don't have anything about data centers because data centers are new, right? Like there was no such thing as like data centers like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And a lot of these ordinances are like, decades old. So a lot of these data centers trying to get away with just being like, oh, we're just an impervious service, we're just this, we're just that. We're not, we're not anything special, like they want to be, yeah,
Assigned you to, not to vacuum that out, to keep it impervious.
Yeah.
It goes with facilities and,
yeah.
you have to vacuum.
Yeah, so we're like, when people ask us, we're trying to get them to like tell the local municipality to pass like the model data center ordinance that we prepared. And on there, it has like responsible water usage, responsible land usage and stuff like that. You can't like outright ban them to a certain point, but you can make it so that, they're constructed responsibly, they use water responsibly, they deposit water and cool their systems responsibly. And along those lines. And most importantly, you want them to be classified as data centers. You don't want them to get away with just being an impervious surface or being, a logistical hub or a distribution center or something.
Like,
Yeah.
good idea, because these little municipalities, they have
Mhm.
nowhere.
Yeah, of course.
Most state centers they do. Top of that, they don't
Yeah.
really have any expertise as well, so they can take. They can copy yours.
Yeah.
They can take bits and pieces of it, they can work it into what they already have.
Yeah, so like the reason we did that is because what we were running into was, when a lot of people you say like, oh, we should have an ordinance for this, right? But then they're like, oh, who has time to prepare this? Or like it's too costly to prepare this, or this and that, So since we have a model one, it literally has like blank spots to be like municipality name here, like this name here, like insert this here, And like of course they should read it, look over it to see if it fits them. I think several, but like obviously not all of them because when you think of the Lehigh Valley, you think of like Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, but there's like Lower Macungie, there's like a AI data center like proposed, like there's like I live in Nazareth, Nazareth's not like a huge town. Oh, we have the resource online. We try to circulate it, but at some point, like they have to be looking for it. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
now, even
Mhm.
though it's new, we
Yeah.
see the repercussions already from people that have the AI data centers.
Yeah.
And each of them frame it that it affects their power usage, it affects
Uh-huh.
their water waste, it affects all these things. So what I'm just not understanding is why, I mean, I am understanding because when he talks.
Yeah.
So how do you defeat the undefeatable? Because all of these places are fighting these AI data centers, but they're bringing in too much money into
Yeah.
the townships for them to decline it. So
Yeah.
I think the accounting is that they aren't actually going to bring in a huge amount of money once they're
Yeah,
done being
once they're
built.
done, but
Yeah.
that's, I think that's where the townships are still like, well, we're waiting for the research on that. Yes.
Mhm.
I think that's where this whole, they're still new, like, we're getting the money now, but in the long run, for those that have had it for
Mhm.
that X amount from the beginning to now, they're seeing all these problems with
Yeah.
power usage, data usage, with waterways being, with the runoff, with all
Yeah.
these other things that it just,
Pushing back now, Northern Virginia, where this all started, I saw.
Wisconsin as well is like pushing back on
Yeah.
that, but it's like pushing back, is it really pushing back, just like creating a fuss and actually winning, or pushing back like we're just.
Are there any wins on the book about stopping any big data centers? Cause I
Mhm.
see all this fighting. I haven't heard of a big victory yet.
Well, where I live, we just defeated one last Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
Building campus, data centers. They needed 3 million gallons of water a day. This is south side of Hazel. So the township, and it's a little township, and they had a meeting last Monday. And they had 90 seats in there, and they probably had 100 people standing. And it went on for a long time. They decided to table the discussion. They had an emergency meeting that Friday of the same week. The crowds extended out into the parking lot. And finally, the supervisors defeated it. Now, I don't think it's over.
Yeah.
Heels, it was on Facebook, it was in the paper, people rallied. But when you sit there and you look at your supervisors, there is no expertise at all.
Yeah.
When you look at the crowd, there's still no expertise. This is just so new. They had no ordinance, they had no way of addressing the data center. That was one of the big hiccups.
Yeah.
The other thing is people are showing up at the end when it's too late.
Yeah.
They were ready for the final vote, but people hadn't been going to the planning sessions, hadn't been going to the early. This has been going on since April. Had a name for it, the Hazelnut Project in Hazelton. And you need to really start at the very beginning watching this. And you've got to put it in Humboldt Industrial Park, right off of 81. So 3 million gallons of water they need. But it's an evaporative cooling process. It's not recycled like you had on the board there. So they're gonna lose 2 million gallons minimum of water a day through evaporation.
From groundwater?
I like this idea. They're actually taking the treated water out of the Hazelton sewer.
Mm.
Okay? So at least they're not using bottled water. It goes into our little Black Creek, and our little Black Creek, you counts on that water that's coming out of the sewer authority. So I'm belong with friends in Nescapac, and we measure the flow of the creek, and we've been monitoring it for years. And I put the chart together of the monthly flow, and then I subtracted 2 million gallons of water a day, showed the column right next to the average flow for each month, and it hardly made any difference at all for most of the months until you hit July, August, the low flow periods, cut half. Now, we might be able to live with that, but now Sugarloaf's talking about a data center, and Hazleton and West Hazleton are talking about a data center. Right. And our Black Creek's gonna dry up. I'm really worried about the water, and up until now, all the talk has been power.
Mm-hmm.
There's been very few discussions about water.
Yeah.
Wow.
But water is important. So I was on a Zoom call with the Penn State Extension today. They had one from 12 to 1 o'clock about data centers and water usage. They had 405 people on it, which sounded like a lot. Well, that's nothing compared to all of our communities and what we all need to learn. But anyway, they said water really isn't an issue. Country has plenty of water.
Oh, boy.
Okay? But it's a local issue. Our little creek's gonna dry up.
I
And to
got it
pump it
now.
out of the ground, to use potable water for cooling and watch it evaporate and be lost is just unbelievable. That is insane.
Well, I think it's,
We get fires.
just in the last year, the geology folks have, with satellites, seen that the East Coast is sinking fast because of the amount of water that we're pulling out. And they're really in a bit of a panic because all the gas lines and the electrical lines and things like that can't handle sinking that fast without being totally disrupted, and they can't possibly replace them fast.
And couple that with a drought year.
Yeah.
Right, so
Water,
locally, I mean, if you're taking that, a volume of water out, there's gonna be some sort of subsidence.
We have so little water in the Hazelton area, we have to take it out of Lehigh River, your Lehigh River, thank you very much. And then, of course, the Hazelton already puts it.
Right.
Lost. Lehigh now.
Yeah, like just touching on that, like I remember someone just asked about like, oh, are we like distributing it to local municipalities? The important thing is for the local residents to tell their municipality about it, because a lot of times when we tell them, they're like, oh, okay, like you're an environmental organization, of course you want this. You know, like they might not, take us seriously, or if they do, they're like, oh, our people don't really want this. So why are you like, So it's important for the locals to really advocate for it. To be like, hey, this is here and we want this. And here it is, it's like easy for you, just fill it out,
Grassroots.
Yeah,
Some way to educate the public.
yeah.
As well as these local government officials. I mean, if some of these universities just sponsor a program where you could go, sit in an auditorium and learn something.
Yeah.
Maybe during the halftime of a game.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, wait,
There
pay
are-
attention.
There are
Players can do
municipal,
it.
there are municipal government retreats and programs where the local officials can come and they do present a lot of these things. But I like your suggestion. A lot of these are officials telling the municipal people, and they say, oh, well, we don't know if we really want that or if our people do. So get involved. Go to your planning commission meetings. Go to your supervisors meetings. Find out what's going on and participate.
You gotta do it early on.
Yeah.
Well, you have to
Exactly.
now to get the zoning ordinances and the development regulations in order now for unknown projects that will come online a year, 5 years, 10 years from now. You cannot go with what you know is being proposed now, because what it is, yeah.
In our problem in Easton, I think we need a viewscape protection too, because you can do that.
Yes.
Another thing Wilson Borough approved this warehouse. 80% of the land is on their property.
94%.
And then we're trying to stop it with our little corner.
Yeah.
So now, the other thing happened to us is Williams Township let Schwerin landfill come in, and guess who looks at the landfill? Easton, because it's on our side of the mountain. And every view from Easton, you're on the college, and on college, you're on the campus, you look out, you see Schwerin landfill.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I feel like they just are abusing us, and now Wilson's doing the same thing by sticking this enormous warehouse way up in the sky, will not really in our faces, just like everything else.
So say you have a warehouse,
It's not
right? What can the community do to keep an eye and hold their feet to the fire to make sure it does the least amount of damage?
Well, after it's already built, like as long as they stick to their like local ordinances and the stuff that they propose in terms of like, the pollution regulation, whatnot, like you can't really do much, to be honest.
But how can you make sure they stick to it?
Like
Well,
a lot of times there has to be like a major incident.
like the gentleman said, you have to measure the water in the stream every periodic time and keep records of that and notice any changes. A lot of work.
Mhm.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We will be. Third Wednesday in January, January 21st. And Ibrahim, we have a little gift for you. Thank you. I am the father, so I bring up to see. Thank you. I have a bag, there's some food. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You can see. Why